On today's show, was that the worst win in Senators history? 4-3 in San Jose?
And we're going to take a look at how Adam Gaudette finds himself with 11 goals and on the top line on the Senators.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get started with a big return on FanDuel. New customers who place a $5 bet will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today is Thursday, November 28th. We want to wish a happy Thanksgiving to our friends south of the border. Pilsy, 2 points is 2 points, and I won't apologize for it. But my goodness, talk about hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, I mean, the Ottawa Senators, it was not a pretty way to win a hockey game, Ross, but we are in no position to be complaining about how this team is winning. It was a vibe cast in the postcast last night, despite a brutal effort where the Ottawa Senators were held without a shot for what seemed like an eternity, and the best they could do is just flip the puck out of the zone. But you get the 4-3 win, so it doesn't matter. Linus Ullmark steals this win for the Ottawa Senators. Adam Gaudette comes up clutch. Tyler Kleven has his first NHL goal. There's still, even though it wasn't a great game from the process side of things, Ross, there's still some great storylines we can latch onto here.
And how many games this season have been the exact opposite? You think to the New York Rangers game where they lose 2-1. You think to the Flyers game where they outshoot them by a similar margin to the game against San Jose just the other way. The Senators were due for a positive regression for the point total. Now, how they got there, there are some concerns, and we'll touch on those. But 2 points is 2 points, and when you open the standings, like the thumbnail said in the postcast, they don't ask how, it's how many you have at the end of the season, and it's great to see Adam Gaudette fitting in on that top line. The goals per 60 minutes stat, we've been all over the last few days, but now we don't even have to go to that column. There's only 18 players in the entire National Hockey League with more goals than Adam Gaudette, who is playing on a league minimum NHL contract, and we were told yesterday that when signed, was under the impression that he would have to start in Belleville and work his way up. Talk about lighting a fire under him, eh?
And Ross, this is what happens, and it's a perfect example of people in any industry when you're just confident in your own abilities and you get the right opportunity. And he did things the right way. He looks at an Ottawa team in the offseason, probably sees an opportunity there. Maybe he's got to spend some time in Belleville. That's okay. How about work your butt off in training camp, make the team, slip through waivers, and then come back. Sure, you're starting on the fourth line as a guy that scored 44 goals in the minors, albeit, but starting on a fourth line probably wasn't what he was gunning for when he made the Ottawa Senators roster, but he made the most of it, even playing with guys like Nick Cousins, Zach McEwen. Like, he wasn't exactly set up with offensive playmakers, and he bides his time, he scores his goals, and he gets elevated to the top line playing with Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk.
Okay, no spoilers, no spoilers. We're going to talk about the rise of Adam Gaudette in the next segment because this guy has scored at every level. But getting back to the game last night, you brought Linus Ullmark in for nights like this. Like, when your team, and I actually want to ask you this first. Do you buy in to jet lag here? Because that's a quick turnaround going on a 6-hour flight. Tim Stützle mentioned it after the game. Travis Green said, look, no excuses, but, which we do often on this show. Mm-hmm. However, do you think that that may have contributed? Like, they got out to a decent start. I know the play was controlled by San Jose, but they were up 2-0 in this game. So do you think that that contributed as the game went on? It's like 1 o'clock on their body clocks while the game's still in the third period. Why they were outshot 13-1 in the third period?
Yeah, I mean, there's Ross, there's difference between, in my mind, and maybe people will argue this, and that's fine, but there's a difference between excuses and reasons, right? Like
That's
you
what I
can
tell
make
my wife.
there, feel free to use that one. But like there's excuses where it's just like, this is just a way for me to get out of something, which I'm sure you've done before. But also there's reasons, and it's like, I'm not using this as an excuse for why this happened. This is a direct reason why this happened. And it was very clear that one of the teams started this game with a lot of jump, a lot of physicality. They were getting all over loose pucks. That's the San Jose Sharks. And another team was just doing their best to survive and pounced offensively when they had the opportunities to do so. Like the Ottawa Senators barely touched the puck in this game. But when they did, Tim Stützle, he said, all right, I'm going to find my goal scorer and I'm going to hit him going towards the net. And that's what he does. And they end up cashing in 2 goals like that. So I think it's fair. Like that was actually kind of crazy looking back that the Ottawa Senators go from Ottawa one day and then San Jose. Like that's a tough one. But Ross, you mentioned at least that's the first and last 10:30 Eastern Standard Time puck drop that the Sens will have to deal with, and that Sens fans will have to deal with this season.
Yeah, exactly. And look, the travel in the East is pretty cushy, all things considered, compared. So you're going to have nights like this. The fact they were able to gut out a win, and their one shot on goal in the third period was by one hand on the stick from Adam Gaudette. The hockey gods took care of the rest. That, to me, symbolizes a moment you can build around, and a moment where everything else is elevated. The Cleven first goal, great shot. The Travis Hamonic School of Slap Shots student has now become the mentor. But 39th game for Tyler Cleven, first goal. We've been following him since the moment he was drafted, going to North Dakota. I got to get to know his family a little bit. You too. We got to see them in Minnesota. Like just great people. And it's awesome to see these types of stories that are emerging throughout an NHL season. So we're so happy for Tyler Cleven. Huge goal. And the fact that the Sens didn't have a shot from that goal until the next goal.
That's what I was
They
going to
scored
get into.
on 2 consecutive shots, 20 minutes and 20 seconds apart. Hockey is the coolest game on earth. The fact that that can happen, it just has to make you chuckle.
Well, and Ross, this can lead into the goaltending talk as well, because you look at a guy in Linus Ullmark who, when he's not facing a lot of shots, he doesn't seem to perform the same way. And as goalies ourselves, Ross, we know that sometimes you got to be feeling the puck to get in the game. And when you're not, you're cold, you're rusty. Look at Mackenzie Blackwood, 4 goals on 11 shots.
Ooh.
4 goals on 11 shots. And like you said, consecutive shots, 20 minutes apart, end up going in. But just quickly on the Cleven goal too, I think you got to give major props to Claude Giroux keeping that puck in and the little backhand sauce perfectly on Cleven's tape. And then what I didn't really notice till I watched the replay of the game, Drake Batherson with a heads-up screen, because he times it perfectly. Because if you don't time that perfectly, Ross, you end up blocking that shot and you're hurting your own team, and maybe even getting hit by a Cleven 91-mile-per-hour slap shot as well. But he times it perfectly, sees Cleven load up, goes across Mackenzie Blackwood's sight line, and as he unloads, he's just finished crossing, and that puck slips through. Mackenzie Blackwood doesn't even see it. It goes right through him. So great play by Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson on that goal. And yeah, to see how excited all the players were for Tyler Cleven, and Timmy's quote after in the post game being like, we tell him every day, today's the day, today's the day. So now Tyler Cleven finally doesn't have to hear that from the boys at every pregame skate.
So great. And with Linus Ullmark, like, you can't say enough good things. His best save of the night, though, might not have even counted because there's a delayed penalty. That beautiful save. This guy was all over it last night, and it's a great confidence booster for him. We hope he can keep it going. You mentioned 11 shots. That ties the Ottawa Senators record for least amount of shots in a victory. The last time and only other time they did it, April 12th, 2013, our guy John Perlberg with TSN had that stat, and I've looked up this game, Pilsy. 33 save shutout for Craig Anderson. Nice. Ottawa's 2 goals came in the second period, 3 minutes apart. Jean-Gabriel Pajot Is that what I think it is? It is. That was Jean-Gabriel Pageau's first NHL goal.
Oh.
And Milan McCulloch, assisted by Daniel Alfredson, the other one in that one. So, look,
and they only scored 2 goals in that one, Ross. They scored 4 goals on 11 shots last night.
Amazing. So hopefully the Sens can carry this momentum into a full day off today. Get that time clock ready because tomorrow's a practice day. Saturday, you've got the LA Kings on the second half of a back-to-back in a strange situation where they play at 12:30 local time on Friday and then at 4 p.m. local time on Saturday. It's a 7 o'clock Eastern start. The LA Kings and Senators meeting on both U.S. and Canadian Thanksgiving. That 8-7 win in early October, the third game of
Kings
the
and
season.
Senators coming together for Thanksgiving. It's politics and royalty coming together for 2 feasts.
Coming together for feasts.
Where goals are served up in plenty. A lot of dishing, a lot of goals.
Well, hopefully there's some leftover duck for Sunday because the Senators are in Anaheim. That will be an 8 o'clock Eastern start. So not bad. Hey, not bad. 8 p.m. Eastern for a West Coast game.
I like it.
And 7 o'clock, the Sens are getting lucky. The fans are, at least, only having to stay up late last night. It is U.S. Thanksgiving, which means that at this point in the season, 77% of the teams that are in a playoff spot make it at the end of the day. There's no games on the schedule today. The NHL wisely not going head-to-head with U.S. football, NFL Thursday, but this is going to be a great time to look at the standings and what Ottawa needs to do to continue elevating their game and maybe making a bit of a push here going forward. So we'll look at that in our third segment, the rise to stardom of Adam Gaudette. And I'm not even saying that facetiously. He looks like a very legitimate top line player right now. He was all over it last night. Good in the dot too when needed. We'll have that conversation next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one easy place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today, and they always have great promos. You can get 30% profit boosts on parlays, 50% profit boost, 30% profit boost on live bets. So always make sure to check out the promos. That's what FanDuel has going at FanDuel.com. And remember, new customers, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. You want tickets at the last minute? Get them at the lowest price with FanDuel. FanDuel's my only place when I'm looking for tickets. I know that I'm going to get no added fees at checkout because I turn in that all-in pricing. That's the worst, when you think you're getting it for one price and they try to pull a fast one on you. Not at FanDuel. FanDuel's also got Game Time picks, which makes getting tickets easier by cutting out the fluff and only showing you the incredible deals available on great seats. They've got seat views. You don't have to get to the stadium and be like, what? This seat stinks. No, you know what to expect at FanDuel. They've also got the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. If you're going to the game on Saturday night in LA, shoot us a note on Twitter. We'd love to have a boots on the ground report on the postcast. And we know that these people, Sens fans, you're smart. You're going to Game Time to get your tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Millsy, the Ottawa Senators got out a 4-3 victory in the jaws of defeat against the Sharks. They recover after giving up the game-tying goal with just over 7 minutes remaining in this game. I thought we were going to overtime for sure.
Same.
In this one. I thought for sure they were going to overtime. I was even hoping that they'd get a point at that juncture of the game, but thank goodness for Adam Gaudette. And also, we didn't even mention Tim Stützle's performance in that. The secondary assist on the opening goal was the type of drive, determination, and confidence that you need your top players playing with.
Yeah, I mean, both his assists on Gaudette's goals were incredible. Timmy was showing battling along the boards as well. Timmy's just been incredible. There's not much more you can say than he's been this team's best player, and he's found ways to round out his game so that if he's not scoring on the power play as much as we like, still only one power play goal, or if the face-offs aren't happening, 0 face-offs taken last night, Ross. He's finding other ways to have a full, complete game, and he's having a lot of success doing it. Tinted Timmy is out for revenge.
Tinted Timmy looks unbelievable. A quasi-revenge game for him, of course. Thanks, Martin Jones, and your .890 save percentage that year where the Sharks tanked and Ottawa got the glory of Tim Stützle at third overall. Stützle is now up to 28 points on the season, Pilsy. He is going to blow past his totals from last season. I don't think it's going to be even close. He's a plus player. He's still sitting at that 1 power play goal, but he's in double digits in power play points. So if he's being a disher out there, that's good enough for me. He's also contributing at even strength. This is awesome to see. You've also got an over point per game player in Drake Batherson and Brady Tkachuk. And for all the discourse about Brady Tkachuk, this guy's got at least a point in 17 out of 22 games this season. He comes to play every night. And we also have to give some stick taps to Brady Tkachuk. His 200th career NHL assist in last night's game. He's 10th in Senators history, 2 behind Marian Hossa for 9th all-time in franchise history. So those are some of the good stories. Of course, there was a lot of bad last night. What is up with dumping they were allergic to carrying the puck over the blue line last night. They were content with just defending the lead. And I also don't like this trend that's emerging. It's happened a couple times in the last week where they kill off a penalty until the last 10 seconds and then allow a goal. How deflating is that?
Yeah, it's tough. But Ross, you know what? I got to give a lot of credit to the San Jose Sharks. The San Jose Sharks, their forechecking was aggressive. They always had 2 guys coming in anytime the Ottawa Senators had the puck. They had no time to make passes, to break it out. And sure, you look at a team that's at home, not jet lagged, versus a team that...
And coming off a 7-2 win at home the other night, their confidence had to be pretty high.
Yeah, and like we've talked about, this is a San Jose Shark that's spoiled a lot of teams' games and has frustrated a lot of teams' fan bases. And it's not sheer luck. And they did it without their top point producer in Mikael Granlund. This is a team that plays hard, and they showed it last night. But yeah, it was crazy, Ross. Anytime the Sens got the puck, they didn't have a choice but to flip it out. It was a really good job by the San Jose Sharks. And obviously you want a little bit more jump out of your own team. So part of that falls on the Ottawa Senators, but I don't think we're going to see a performance like this up against the LA Kings on Saturday.
I don't think so either, man. I think that you're going to need to have all systems go against the LA Kings in that situation. And we'll see how, let's get to that tomorrow. We're going to have Eddie Fox on the show from Locked On LA Kings. I know people are really enjoying the crossovers that we're doing here, and I think it's great to get some perspective from them. We'll ask about how Ottawa boy Brant Clark is looking and get a bit of a preview. Again, the Kings, though, are playing at 3:30 Eastern time tomorrow, so it'll be the second half of a back-to-back for the LA Kings. Who do they have tomorrow? Let's take a quick look here. The LA Kings at 3:30 will be playing the Anaheim Ducks. So we do a little pre-scouting tomorrow afternoon, watching that. The Senators' next 2 opponents. Pilsy, the Adam Gaudette story. And we'll pull up this quote because it is so good. Adam Gaudette was asked, or he wasn't even asked really specifically. He brought it up and I love him for it, but just being the guy. He's been the guy at every level. This guy's a Hobey Baker winner, just 2 of them in last night's game. One outscored the other. That's 2 for Gaudette, 1 for Celebrini, who, by the way, is going to be an absolute rock star in this league, if he isn't already. Generational hockey IQ on Macklin Celebrini. But Adam Gaudette, his last year in high school had 29 goals in 27 games. Then in his last 2 years in college, had 56 goals in 72 games. Then in the American Hockey League, we talked about last year leading the entire league with 44 goals. He had 20 goals in 40 games a couple of years ago in the AHL. This guy has scored at every level, and now he's just making it a National League thing too. He says, quote, "You guys keep asking me if I'm surprised. I don't want to sound cocky, but I'm not." That's the type of confidence that a goal scorer in the NHL needs.
Yeah, and why wouldn't Adam Gaudette have this confidence? Sure, maybe in the NHL, he had that one big year, which, my bad, I overlooked when I was talking about his career highs. But other than that, he hasn't had a lot of success statistically. Ooh, that's a tough one. But he knows he has the abilities. And I think backing that up last year in the minors with 44 goals, like scoring 44 goals will put a lot of confidence in your abilities, even if it is in the AHL, not the NHL. And now he's getting the opportunity he needs. And Ross, I got to give credit to Travis Green here. When you're shaking up the lineup, I don't think very often a coach's indication is to move a fourth line player up on the top line with their generational talented players, including the captain. Like, that was a ballsy move that paid off.
Well, let alone moving a center to wing too. Like, they just put him in a completely different position, and he's answered the bell.
Yeah, and for him and Timmy is just a move that makes so much sense. Like, that's the type of player Timmy's needed, is a guy who is like, I'm not even going to think about passing that puck. You get it to me and I'm ripping it on net, or I'm getting it on net, or if you have the puck, I'm going hard to the net or finding an open space, because that's the perfect complement for a player like Timmy, who loves to pass it and has insane creative ability to make those types of plays. So I want to see this line together moving forward for sure. There's no reason to try anything else, because they've found success and they've found a way to get Adam Gaudette more minutes. Like, when a guy is scoring like this, get him on the ice as much as you can. Bump him up to that first line. Now, I'm not saying put him on the first power play unit, but I think Adam Gaudette is in a great spot right now, and I'm happy for him.
I'm so happy for him. It's well-deserved, and we'll see how long he can keep this pace up. Last night, he ended up playing right in the middle. No, even towards the bottom. He still only played 12 minutes and 30 seconds and had 2 goals. That's a goal every 6 minutes and 15 seconds if you're a math guy at home, chopping that one up. Super cool story. Love that for Adam Gaudette. Now, for the Ottawa Senators, still 1 game below NHL 500. They'll have an opportunity this weekend to really make up the ground that they lost with their 5-game winless streak. We'll take a look at the standings next. It is U.S. Thanksgiving, the first poll in the ground of the checkpoint of the NHL season. Teams are a quarter of the way through. Let's see how the Senators fare amongst the teams around them. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Built Rewards. Public service announcement for anyone who rents. If you haven't heard of Built, you're about to thank me. Earning points on rent is now a reality when you pay your rent through Built. You don't even need to check with your landlord to start earning points that you can use towards flights, hotel stays, fitness classes, and even your next rent payment. Let me break it down for you. There's no cost to join Built. As a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels. That's got to be every hotel in the world, and properties that you can redeem your Built points towards. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So, if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's JOINBILT built.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Join built.com/lockedonnhl to start earning points on your rent payment today. Check it out, guys. It's Built Rewards.
All right, Pillsy, we made it to the final segment here again. A very happy Thanksgiving to all of our Senators fans south of the border. And I mentioned in our Game Time ad read, if you're going to the game, LA Kings, Ottawa Senators, or Anaheim Ducks versus Ottawa Senators, let us know. And the first person to get to us will be on the postcast for a boots on the ground report. Pillsy,
Yes,
we are officially 22 games out of 82 into the National Hockey League season for the Ottawa Senators. They are 10, 11, and 1. They've got a -1 goal differential. They're winners of 2 straight. They sit 7th in the Atlantic Division. They sit 7th in the wild card race. The first 2 teams make it. How are you feeling overall? Because we know that Senators hockey is not for the faint of heart. They win some, they lose some. But overall, how would you summarize these first 22 games?
I feel okay, Ross. I think if you would have told me or us at the start of the year that at American Thanksgiving, the Ottawa Senators would be 7th in the division, I might have had a mental breakdown. But if you told me then that if you switch it to the wild card race, they're only 3 points out of a wild card spot, then you'd have me back in. But then if you reminded me that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams they'd have to jump to get to that wild card spot, well, now I'm spiraling out of control again. So I think that's why I feel okay. And I feel okay, Ross, because we talked about it. A lot of the games that these Ottawa Senators have lost were games they deserve to win, games they could have won. They've been involved in a lot of one-goal games where they don't even get a point. The process is there most of the time. And what I've really been emphasizing on is we haven't seen the best from Linus Ullmark, although my guy showed up last night. We saw a great game. He steals the win for them there. But more importantly, Ross, we haven't seen even close to the best from Jake Sanderson. In fact, this has been the worst he's played in his entire career. So if we get him getting back to normal and Linus Ullmark being more consistent, I think when your number one goalie and your number one defenseman get back to where they need to be, that's going to change the fortunes of this team drastically here. So I feel okay. I'm not good, not great, not bad, not terrible. Okay.
You just have to focus on the process and try to win a few more of these Eastern Conference games that you should win. Like, look at the teams right ahead of them, Pillsy. If you beat Philly and Buffalo, all of a sudden you're in a playoff spot and you're ahead of all these teams.
And those are teams I look at, and even Columbus and Detroit, I look at them and I'm like, the Ottawa Senators are a better team than them long term.
And the Islanders and Habs underneath them have beaten them this year. Like,
yeah,
those are the games that they needed to get points, but it's still early. They've got more wins than Columbus, although they have played one more game. So Columbus has the points percentage advantage there. They are tied. It's a 3-way tie with the Islanders, who are just the biggest overtime loss merchants in the National Hockey League. They've lost 2 in a row in regulation. Thank you. That's regression to the mean if I've ever seen it. But look, Ottawa, I think at this point in the season, it's just about winning the games ahead. And that sounds easy, but I think that it's easy for us to get caught up in this type of conversation. And that's what fans do. It's projecting. How do you do this? How do you do that? But as the team, I hope the Senators aren't looking at the standings at all, because the process needs to continue to improve if they want any shot at this. And our friends over at FanDuel, right now, they have Ottawa at plus 142 to make the playoffs. They were right around even money going into the season, so they've fallen back just a touch. But there is so much hockey left, and they are just 3 points out of a playoff spot. Now, of course, the teams ahead of them are going to play each other a bunch, but one thing that does give me hope, and it does piggyback off of your note that the Senators have been in almost every game this season, their -1 goal differential is 4th in the wild card race.
Yeah.
Like, they've got a better goal differential than Columbus, who's just ahead of them in points percentage. And then the 2 teams who are just a point or 2 ahead of them, Detroit and Philadelphia, are minus double digits. So there's a lot of signs that are pointing to the fact that Ottawa could make a push. But frankly, if they don't get their first 5-game win streak in 2 years, it's not going to matter. They have to go on a bit of a stretch during this, whether it's here coming up or sometime in the new year. They have to at some point find a 5-game or better win streak to make the playoffs. That's kind of my benchmark here. You have to have a pile of points in a small period of time.
Well, Ross, I think this is the ideal time for them to go on that run. Because look, LA, obviously, that's a team that's going to make things interesting. So we'll see how that goes. But like you mentioned, they're going to be on the second half of back-to-back. Let's say you get the win there. Then up against Anaheim, you got to get the win there. And then you've got Detroit. So that's a good measuring stick game. And then you're up against the worst team in the NHL in the Nashville Predators. Or sure, that roster is better than dead last in the league, but that's another game you should win. And then the New York Islanders, that's a beatable team too. So this is a stretch here where, and those last 3 games I mentioned are on a homestand, and then you've got Anaheim as the last team on that homestand as well. So like, why not now, Ross? Let's mess around and get a 5-game win streak right now. And if they can come back from California winning all those games, they're above 500, 12, 11, and 1.
We're just giving them 2 wins here.
Yep. I said if
Okay.
they can, Ross. And what I like about that too, if that happens, is then your away record is at 500 too, because we know the road woes have really struck this team hard, and they're going to have some road experience when the World Juniors are in Ottawa in December. So if you can build confidence that the being on the road is not as detrimental as it has been in the past, I think that goes a long way. So I'm really optimistic about this stretch of games the Ottawa Senators have ahead.
Well, Pilsy, some great news. The Ottawa Senators earned their 2nd win on the road against a Western Conference team last night, beating last year's total for the entire season.
And we didn't even have to go to any of those games to make it happen.
Not yet, we haven't, but we will make sure to be boots on the ground later on this season. Obviously, it's been a busy week for me. We will be getting more guests on the show. Not that we haven't this week. Andy Petrillo on Monday, great Sens Central citizen, and Jake Ferraro yesterday on the show, or Tuesday rather. Usually we do citizens on Wednesday. We moved it to Tuesday this week, and we got Eddie Fox from Locked On LA Kings coming on tomorrow. So really, really enjoying this stretch of hockey. Wins are good. Of course, you can nitpick how they won this past game, but just think about it as a return on good games where they got nothing early on in the season. Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
I have 2 final thoughts, Ross. Usually you hit me with the surprise final thoughts, even though we've done that for pretty much every single episode. I'm not prepared, so I'm making up for it by having 2 today. The Belleville Senators, a 7-1
Hey, they scored first.
Yeah, Angus Crookshank got things started. Ooh. He's doing his best Adam Gaudette impression, 9 goals, 1 assist. But they lose 7-1 to the Syracuse Crunch, so yikes there. And I got to use this opportunity to do it, Ross, because it's one of my favorite yearly annual clips that come around. Jay Onright, happy Thanksgiving to all our friends down in the States, or as we like to call it, Thursday.
And no productivity on Thursday because we're going to be dialed into these NFL games.
Yeah, your Bears are doing great. But
they're already playing.
Happy Thursday to all Canadians. It's a big Thursday up here north of the border.
It's a victory Thursday, Sens fans. Enjoy it. We'll have game day. Well, not game day preview. We'll have a weekend preview. 2 games this weekend for the Ottawa Senators. Really, really excited for that. And maybe why don't we do a mailbag tomorrow? We haven't done a mailbag in a long time.
Yeah, well, I feel like we could, but we got 2 games to preview, so we're gonna have lots to get into, but we haven't done a mailbag in a while, and I love doing that, so I'm down.
Okay, well, let us know your questions in the comments on YouTube. That's where we'll take the mailbag questions. Comments on this video, we'll get to them on tomorrow's episode of the show. Thank you so much for watching, listening, engaging with the show. Go relive last night's Vibecast with Pilsy and Martian. Really great conversation there. And Lily made she made her postcast debut. And by the way, we need to keep this rolling. My daughter's never seen a Sens loss. 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, when Danger Flutes is Lily's lullaby, let's keep that going.
And shout out to the guy on Twitter who said that the only L's that she'll ever see are her initials. That was a great comment there. Sens fans are the best. We'll have lots more coming up tomorrow and on the weekend. This is a 7-day a week. We are your team every day. We got postcast Saturday, postcast Sunday. We are absolute animals. I absolutely love it. That's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.